television.
Hey everyone, this is Attorney Mac Pierre-Louis, and I'm here again with my partner in crime, Natalia, and we are here back to talk about some legal topics on this important show, Legal Talk with Natalia and Mac. And let me let Natalia get in here for a second before we move on.
Thank you so much. This is the first time we're experimenting with this show, Mac being in Houston, me being online in Warsaw, Poland, and Mac being in his plain and fantastic day, and I am being now, I was looking outside of the window in absolute darkness, having the artificial light around me. I am Natalia Łoska-Czajka. I live in Warsaw, where I also practice as a lawyer and mediator, and it is my great pleasure to introduce you to the next topic we are having. And this is, again, even a greater pleasure because I'll be interviewing Mac about something that unfortunately might happen to many of us, which is the crisis in the relationship and people considering splitting in their relationship. Mac is a family law attorney in Houston, Texas, and he's dealing a lot with those issues, and he's giving a lot of pre-divorce and divorce advice. And this is why I wanted to take advantage of that, Mac, and ask you, tell me, if a client comes to you and asks, I think my marriage is going through something very difficult, I want to divorce, what are your first words to these clients?
Well, my first words are always that I'm never going to recommend that a party divorce their spouse. I think that's a very personal and sensitive topic that needs to be between that person and their heart. But we know the truth, and the facts are that marriages end in divorce. And when parties do find themselves moving towards that direction, and now the parties start becoming at odds, they start lawyering up, and potentially they have a third person, a judge, who can come in the middle and intervene and make decisions that will impact their children, their property, and their lives forever, then this becomes a very serious topic where they need to sometimes get a lawyer to give them legal advice on what can and cannot happen, what their experience shows, what is likely to happen. But the basics to start off with would be the length of time for such a situation called a divorce. The basic length of time at minimum is 2 months in Texas. Why? Because Texas law requires that from the date of filing the divorce until the final resolution, at minimum, a judge has to wait 60 days to grant the divorce. And why is that? The law assumes that many couples can reconcile, and if people can't reconcile, make up, fix their relationship, it's a good thing. It's good for children, and it's good for stability in our society. And so that minimum 60-day requirement that your divorce has to sit there before it can be finalized is something that people need to remember. Now, there are exceptions to that, of course. Sometimes the parties can find exceptions to say, well, I'm facing family violence. I don't want to wait 2 months. Or I'm going to be deployed in the military, or someone's going to pass away and we need to have a marriage done pretty quickly. There are exceptions and the judges can make them, but typically the first thing I would say, hey, consider the fact that you're going to be in this thing for at least 2 months and possibly 2 years, because unfortunately divorces can take a very, very long time to go through.
Tell me, what are the jurisdictional requirements? Who can come to get divorced in Houston, in Texas?
So when it comes to space, a second ago we talked about time, but when it comes to space, we need to remember a few things. One, you have to live in the state of Texas for at least 6 months. And two, you have to be a resident of the county for at least 90 days, and where you're going to be filing for divorce. But that doesn't mean you have to be the one to satisfy those two requirements, the 6-month rule or the 90-day rule. The other spouse could be the one that satisfies those requirements, but at least somebody, at least one of you, has to satisfy those requirements of having lived here for 6 months and having resided here for 90 days in the particular county where you're going to file. There's different kinds of divorces that might touch. There's in-rem divorces. There's divorces where one person lives in one state and the other one lives in a different state. So this question of jurisdiction can get complicated, actually. We're sometimes filing motions to transfer venue where divorce happens in one county, but in another county is where the children actually live. And so it gets a little tricky, but people are recommended to get a lawyer to ask those specific questions because it's very fact-dependent on where the divorce can be filed and how long it might take. So that's jurisdiction.
And we are not giving anybody any legal advice, but is there a case, is there an instance where someone who wants to go and file for divorce will not be granted one? So can a petition for divorce be dismissed?
Yeah, so very, very quickly, most states in this country are no-fault divorce states, or in Texas, what we call irreconcilable differences. Basically, you don't get along, you can have a divorce. Whether or not that's ethical or moral and that should be grounds for divorce, that's a deeper philosophical question. But more or less, anybody who wants a divorce can get one as long as you can show that the ends of the marital relationship are not going to be furthered by people staying married. And so it's a big question you just asked, but because of time and the limitations and the fact that this is not legal advice, we would recommend that people go to a lawyer and ask these fundamental basic questions. But of course, if it's not irreconcilability, no-fault divorce, then there's of course cruelty, abandonment, felony conviction. There's many different other reasons for cause, but the most common reason you see all the time is the irreconcilable differences reason.
And what about the fact when someone during the divorce process gets pregnant?
Threats definitely happen, and this is why we have family violence laws. And so that's another reason somebody might want to go to a lawyer and ask the questions, hey, what about this family violence that's occurring, especially if there are kids? So that's at the point where we have to stop the chat, but we can definitely continue it at another part where we discuss this issue of the fundamental basics of divorce within Texas. And thank you so much, Natalia, for asking me these questions. And hopefully it's educational for some people who are listening and watching this. And be sure to check us out on the LMI podcast online and learn more at alaskapeer.com. Thanks so much.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Are you ready to talk about all things real estate? Hi, I'm Michelle Briggs, the host of Your Person Real Estate. Join me every Thursday at 5 p.m. and discover everything you should know about the real estate world.
Hello and welcome after the break. It is my greatest pleasure that in this second segment today, we are having Fran Brochstein, who is a renowned mediator in Texas and a family law attorney for many years. Fran, thank you so much for accepting the invitation. And please tell our guests a few words about yourself.
I am the current president of the Texas Association of Mediators. I'm also on the board of my local bar association, the Highland Lakes Bar Association. I don't accept any new clients, but I do a lot of pro bono legal work. But mainly in the past 20 years, I have focused on mediation and trying to keep people out of court and in control of their own lives.
And she did it greatly, let me assure you. Fran is with us on the podcast at LMI Podcast, and she's having her own little place there, which is called Mediation Tips by Fran. But today, because it is a legal talk, we wanted to have Fran for a totally different mission. Fran will be telling us what to look for when hiring an attorney. Fran, why is it that you actually have knowledge on that, and why is it the topic you wanted to talk about to our viewers?
I am on the Supreme Court of Texas unauthorized practice of law committee. I am the chairperson for 10 counties in the Texas Hill Country, and I am constantly getting complaints and phone calls from people regarding what is a licensed attorney, how they find an attorney in Texas. And I do want to warn the public that unfortunately the scammers have now moved online. I just had a call this week from an attorney. Someone has started an Instagram account and is taking money from people via Cash App. And she has not been able to get Instagram to take it off or Cash App to close the account. And she only became aware when an elderly lady could not figure out how to send a Cash App. So I do want people to be aware that unfortunately, there are disbarred attorneys, there are paralegals, there are notaries in Texas that try to practice law without a license and unfortunately take thousands of dollars from innocent people. And then when they finally realize they've been scammed, they try to get the money back. And many times those people are in the dust. You cannot find them. So I'm a big advocate of people doing research before sending anyone money.
And having said that, so what is the first step that when you want to hire an attorney, how to make sure that the person you are approaching or who is approaching you is actually an attorney and is eligible to practice in the state of Texas?
Okay, for the state of Texas, the best place to start is at the State Bar of Texas website. It lists every attorney, licensed ones, disbarred attorneys, even deceased attorneys. And I will tell you that there is someone out there that is running a law office using a deceased attorney's name. And again, these people are really hard to trap. I also like the State Bar of Texas website because it lists attorneys that have been found guilty of grievances. And again, I personally would not want to hire someone with numerous grievances and complaints against them. And then I suggest Googling it. And sometimes bad reviews are actually the opposing side. I've had some bad reviews over the years. I've never taken them down because in every case, it was the opposing side that was mad that I had done a good job for my client. So I have left up negative reviews on purpose, but you have to take everything on the internet with a grain of salt. And then I also encourage people to talk to their friends and relatives and work colleagues about attorneys that they have used in the past.
And this is, of course, a fantastic source of recommendation, Fran. But when already in the contract relationship with an attorney and you start having doubts about it, what would you recommend? Or when you see that something, you're a client, something is not going well, something is just like seems not correct, what should be the steps that a client in a client-attorney relationship should take?
Well, even in my own life, when I need to hire an attorney, I always interview them face to face. I want to make sure that we have a good working relationship and have good communication. There was once an attorney that I talked to for a free consult, and he whispered. I couldn't hear him. And so I did not use him because I could tell immediately there was going to be a problem with that he and I were never going to be able to communicate effectively. So again, if a person is unhappy initially, I would definitely sit down in person with the attorney and talk to them about my concerns. Because what an attorney sells is their expertise and their opinion. They cannot ever guarantee results. But especially in family law, it is a very unique field of practice. It's not based on the law very much. It's usually based on emotions and punishment. And so at some point, most family law cases settle before trial because of the cost of a trial. And I encourage people to trust their lawyer. And when I tell my clients, if I tell you I've done the best I can for you and I think you should take this deal, if you don't trust me, you need another lawyer.
And if there is this lack of trust, what is the path that the client should follow to be able to change the attorney? Or when there is a mistrust between the attorney and the client, what is the path that the attorney should follow?
Well, I have fired clients in the past for example, not following my advice, for screaming at my staff. And sometimes we're just not communicating effectively. And so attorney has to file a motion to withdraw. It has to go in Texas before the judge, and the judge will either sign it or make the attorney remain on the case, and vice versa. A client can fire an attorney. I usually recommend that they have a second attorney in the background that will just sign on as a substitute attorney rather than fire someone and then have to go hire someone. Most attorneys are very willing to work together. And I know personally, if another attorney wants to step into my shoes, I've always worked with it to make their job as easy as possible. The law community is small, and it's important that attorneys always take the high road, because in the future, that other attorney may be my opposing counsel. And I personally do not want a reputation for being known as difficult or impossible to work with.
And when you are saying that you do look into cases of some professional sort of misconduct of those people who are, okay, you can't say that because they're actually not attorneys. What is your authority to do that? Where are you located? What do you do to ensure that no unauthorized person practices law and deceives people in the state of Texas where you are in your area?
Well, actually, there are judges that will file complaints with the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee, and those are taken pretty seriously. There are other avenues. Believe it or not, some of the district attorneys will prosecute because it can be a criminal offense, especially taking money from people and then not providing services. And also the Office of the Texas Attorney General monitors these cases. There have been cases where people apply to become a licensed attorney, but because of the former complaints with the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee, their application to become a licensed attorney in Texas is very carefully scrutinized. The biggest problem, and I hear it a lot, is anyone that says they can do everything, I suggest run. It is impossible these days to be an expert in everything. I used to volunteer lawyers as a staff attorney for 5 years. I handled everything that came in the door. But when I went and opened up my own shingle, I focused on family law because the Texas legislature meets every 2 years and changes the law. So what was applicable when I first practiced law 33 years ago is a lot of those laws have drastically changed over the years.
I need to ask you that, although it will sound very, very creepy. So is a client during the client attorney meeting eligible to ask, can you show me your license or can you show me your title?
Yes, of course. And I actually have a bar. I have my original bar card because you have to pay in Texas if you need a new one. So I encourage people not to lose them. But I do have my um, certificate. I used to be on the wall of my office. And of course, I refer people to the State Bar of Texas and to Google me and see and make sure I am a licensed attorney and a mediator to practice. To practice in Texas. So it doesn't offend me at all. Now, I will warn you that some of these people that are doing this have fabulous websites. In fact, one guy has a YouTube video channel. And unfortunately, I know in Houston, unauthorized practice law, a judge issued a cease and desist for one gentleman, and he's back practicing. He's back at it again. He didn't stop. Unfortunately, some of these people move state to state. When they get caught in one state, they go to another state. And now, quite frankly, they could be anywhere in the world. And that is really scary. I wouldn't hire an attorney unless I sat down with them face to face and looked them in the eye and made sure I liked them, because you're going to be paying them money and you need to be able to trust the person. And sometimes it's just not a good match.
And when you already know that you don't like this very attorney and you are a client, what do you do?
Well, the first thing to do, I always say, is talk to the attorney and see if you can solve the problem. And if not, if you two just are butting heads and not getting along, I do encourage people to talk to a second or third attorney and see if your expectations are realistic. Because unfortunately, many people call me and what they want and what Texas law says are two totally different things. For example, in Texas, judges expect parents to co-parent. I co-grandparent with my ex-husband. And you need to learn to be flexible. A lot of people want to micromanage the other parent. And Texas law, the Texas Family Code, does not allow people to micromanage parenting.
So, knowing all those good tips, Fran, still, one question there is still in my head. If you spot on your committee someone who is unauthorized and tries to practice law as an attorney, what measures do you take against these people?
Well, I've been on the committee now, I think about 7 years, and we have a process. So first, I write a letter to the person that complained and try to get additional information. Then I contact the person being complained about and talk. And then I also like to pick up the phone and talk to them because I'm old fashioned and I still think that hearing someone's voice can be very impactful. I always attempt to resolve it and by saying, first of all, I have to determine, is it the unauthorized practice of law? Sometimes it's not. And then if it is, how bad is it? If it's their first offense, then that's fine. Unfortunately, the repeat offenders, the ones that don't care, are the most difficult. And sometimes I have never done it, but we will file a lawsuit at the courthouse and have a judge tell the person to stop. Again, sometimes the district attorney or the office of the Texas Attorney General get involved too because they're violating so many different laws. So I always try to reach, if all possible, a peaceful resolution. And if not, then it will escalate. Now, I will say we are all volunteers at the Unauthorized Practice of Law Committee. We have one employee who is wonderful, but it is a very slow process. I'm a volunteer. I do this on the side. I do it because I am personally so offended when some of the horror stories I have heard, especially regarding immigrants in this country. There are a lot of unethical people that try to claim they can solve all their immigration problems, and they take thousands of dollars. And I have to tell you, it's very prevalent in Houston and San Antonio and El Paso, as well as the Valley. And it is heartbreaking to see these sweet, innocent people that have turned over anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000, and they're out of luck. And in many times, if the paperwork is done incorrectly, they are then removed from the United States.
Wow.
Where if they'd hired an attorney to begin with, they would still be here.
Okay. Fran, thank you so much. Thank you for pointing out that sometimes those mistakes or errors that attorneys do can be irreparable for the clients. This is why it is important to look for a good attorney with credentials, someone who is authorized. Thank you for this interview. Well, I'm sure we'll see you here again. And now, time for a little break. Thank you so much.
¿Quieres que tu negocio crezca y todo parece indicar que el camino es Estados Unidos? Te dijeron que abras una LLC para que no pagues impuestos, mas no tienes idea de cómo hacerlo. Soy Edmundo Treviño y quiero compartir contigo más de 20 años como empresario en Estados Unidos para que tú no te equivoques en los mismos errores que yo ya realicé. Sígueme en todas las redes sociales para que juntos conquistemos el mercado americano.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Le invita a su servidor Javier Solórzano a que todas las noches en Heraldo Televisión esté con nosotros entre las 21 horas y las 22 horas del centro en Referente. Estamos informando, tratando de que usted tenga todas las piezas de este rompecabezas informativo cotidiano a través de Referente. Lo esperamos, Heraldo Televisión, Referente, 21 a 22 horas. Javier Solórzano.
Welcome again after the short break. We are absolutely happy, and we hope that our viewers will be too, to welcome someone who is now from Houston and who is a leadership business consultant and a mediator, and who has been on our podcast as well. This is Tope Popoola. Thank you so much for joining us today from Houston remotely.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Thanks for having me.
And the topic we're going to be discussing with you today is an interesting one because of your vast experience as a leader, trainer in leadership, business consultant, and you dealt a lot of humanizing the industries and giving it a human face. So I was thinking that speaking about the human face of law, so giving your legal practice a human face, might be something interesting to be discussed. And what comes to your mind when you are thinking about it, Tope?
Well, thank you very much, Natalia. The people sometimes try to find don't try to find a distinction between a business and the person who's behind the business. Now, more often the average person can't tell the difference. Now, and this is where the whole idea comes from. You may not treat your profession as a business, which is what most people do. Lawyers just see themselves as lawyers, and that's it. It's just a profession. You go to court, you defend cases, you send, help to send people to jail or help to get people out of jail. That's all that there is to it. And so they develop a science around it. But there's an art to it, which is the dimension that brings the humanity to the profession. And this is from the understanding that business itself is a person. And you know, as a lawyer, that a business entity is treated as a legal person different from the owner. So if the law understands that the business is a legal persona, obviously the person who is doing the business must also understand that he is a person, the business is a person. And, so he must be able to find a convergence and understand that the number one bottom line about business is people. And so whether in law practice or whatever it is you do, you must understand that your platform of success is people. Whether you're talking about the internal people, those are your staff, or you're talking about the external people that you call your clients. It's all about people. Profit is found in people, not in a product, not in a profession. It's in people.
So Tope, speaking about human capital, okay, this passion that you've been discussing and talking about this topic for many, many years, you've written many books. When we've had you on a top podcast before, you went through some of your books where you've discussed this stuff in depth. But speaking about human capital, what would you say is the most important takeaway for people in our business who might be listening to this, professionally, lawyers, mediators, arbitrators, people who deal with humans' lives every day on a regular basis? What are some takeaways you think they need to know when it comes to both human capital that's working for them and humans who are their clients?
Thank you very much, Mark. Now, the most important, what I think is so fundamental, is the recognition of the fact that in the marketplace where you operate as a professional, it's a platform for connections. And so, once you understand that basic fundamental thing, you're connecting at 7 critical levels. And what are those levels? You have people in the marketplace of life, where you have clients and you have different stakeholders in the entire legal process. You have the client, you have the judge, you have some, hot staff, it's like at every layer you're dealing with people, all right? And then what are the connections that you need to understand in the marketplace? And that's the most important thing to my mind. Number one, you must know that in the marketplace, people are connecting with people. Number two, in the marketplace, people are connecting with value. Number three, in the marketplace, you must know that solutions are connecting with problems. So you're not just a lawyer, you're a carrier of a solution. So when nobody walks into a lawyer's office just to have a cup of coffee or just to go and have a chat. If you go to a lawyer, it's because you want to give him a brief. And it's because you believe that he can solve a problem that you have. So either you're the litigant or somebody is taking you to court. So whichever way, whether you're the plaintiff or you're the, you're the accused or whatever name you give to it, the critical issue is you want somebody who can solve your problem. And the lawyer at that point is your solution. So you have solutions connecting with problems. You have products connecting with values. Remember I talked about value, but I'm talking about values now. That's core values. So what is the moral? What is the ethic? What is the ethical code that drives what you do? Okay? Is it one that rips people off or that doesn't even care about where if it's all about, I just want their money rather than I want to serve them. So then you have decisions connecting with pockets. The decision of the client, okay, connecting with the pocket of the client. Because one of the things that people fail to realize is that every buying decision in the marketplace is first and foremost an emotional decision. So you decide in your emotions before your pocket follows it. Now, and then you also have experience connecting with perception. In other words, if I go to Natalia because I have a problem and, and Natalia gives me a very bad experience of who a lawyer is, right? What is going to be my perception about the legal profession? I'm going to come up with a thing that lawyers are hawks, lawyers are terrible, and all of that. But if she gives me kingly treatment, royal treatment, even if she doesn't win my case, I will believe that lawyers have a human face and they're not the kind of terrible people that people thought they are, all right? And finally, there's purpose connecting with desire. What do I want to accomplish? What is my purpose? And so when those connections are made at those levels, then you have an excellent legal practice. Nobody can beat that.
And actually, you started with separating the business from the owner. However, for many of us, and this is what you have now been describing, we are the faces, we are the human faces of our businesses as lawyers, as mediators. So our faces are the faces that are being either bringing the clients in or are making people be reluctant to work with us.
Exactly.
So what would you say about the personal image of an entrepreneur, such as lawyer, in order to make people come and visit the business?
All right. Thank you very much. I mentioned the issue of the business as a personality, right? Not because I wanted to totally separate the business from the owner, but I want us to be able to make the connection that the business is seen under the law as human. So that simply means you need to also create the personality of that human entity for the business. And that's the only reason why you can inject that dimension into it, your dimension into it. You are the face of the business. When people come to, I don't know what the name of your practice is, but whatever the name of your practice is, when people come there, even if you have people lawyers and you have, younger lawyers, they come there because of the attraction of your brand. And this is why it's so important. People must buy into you before they buy into your service. If people don't like you, they're not going to come buy into your service. And that is why when you talk about business, one of the things I always say to people is let your strategy be driven by advocacy. It doesn't matter whether in the legal business or whatever business, you have to have a strategy that is driven by advocacy. Any strategy that is driven by advocacy will always win in the marketplace because you're touching the core of the client. And in this case, I want to use the word customer because that's more generic. Okay? So you're touching the core of the customer. So at that point, it's no longer a function of he wins a case for me or he loses. Even when you lose a case, he make excuses for you. Why? Because you are his friend first before you are his solicitor. And this is so important. Friends always get the back of friends. So when you treat your clients as friends, as family, you get personally involved. You have to be there for them. So nobody likes to be treated as a figure of statistics. Nobody likes to be treated like it doesn't matter. Like I always say, everybody loves the sound of his first name. Everybody. So if you know your customer, we talk about KYC, right? You know your customer, you're building a bridge. In other words, in building a business, learn to build relationships.
And Tope, when I was in law school, probably around 2008, 2009, I remember this professor saying that the importance of keeping your reputation intact as an attorney. That once you lose your reputation, once people start knowing you for bad things, or such as theft and immoral acts, it's very, very hard to come back from that. And we see to this day attorneys who are being disbarred and having their licenses revoked because they've decided to make some bad decisions. Can you speak very briefly to the importance of reputation, both from the legal perspective, but also how the customer will take a lawyer's reputation into consideration?
Reputation is based on people's experience with you. In other words, people form an opinion about who you are as a result of their experience with you or the experience of somebody they know with you. So, like I always say, a bad reputation spreads faster than a contagious disease. Why? Because, everybody likes to talk. Most people like to see the black dot on the white sheet of paper. And so it's easy to spread negativity. So if you love yourself, you want to build character. Now, let me say this. Reputation is what people know you for. Character is who you really are. Now, what you want to do as a solicitor or as a legal practitioner is to make sure that there is no dissonance, there is no disconnect between your character and your reputation. In other words, I like to put it this way. If your character and your reputation were to meet in the dark, would they recognize themselves as belonging to the same person? So whatever you don't want to be known for, don't get engaged in it.
Tope, that's been really informative. That's been terrific. And thank you so much for that. Just tell our viewers what and how it is best to contact you for business coaching, for business advice, for helping to set up business strategies.
Oh, yes. You can contact me by email on topheritage@yahoo.com. I believe that's on the screen. topheritage@yahoo.com. That's the easiest way to reach me.
Thank you so much, and we will see you after the break.
Thank you very much.
Bienvenidos a Interior Bar Houston, el bar más vibrante de Downtown en la ciudad de Houston. En Interior, la fiesta nunca para. Nuestro DJ de clase mundial te mantendrá bailando toda la noche con la mejor música de hoy y de siempre. Además, aquí encontrarás las mejores bebidas y cócteles. En Interior, nuestro ambiente electrizante y nuestro equipo amigable te asegurarán una noche que nunca olvidarás. Te esperamos de 9:30 a 2 de la mañana. Interior, donde la diversión nunca se detiene.
El recuento informativo veraz y oportuno llega a los Estados Unidos. Zona de noticias, sábados y domingos de 2 a 4 de la tarde con Manuel Zamacona. Solo por Now Media Televisión, en una coproducción con Heraldo Media Group.
¿Sueñas con vender tus productos o servicios en Estados Unidos? Pareciera muy difícil, mas no es imposible. Soy Edmundo Treviño y quiero compartir contigo más de 20 años de experiencia promoviendo productos latinoamericanos en el principal mercado del mundo. Si quieres aprender más, sígueme en todas mis redes sociales.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Hey everyone, and we're back. And thanks again for joining us at Legal Talk with Natalia and Mac. And Mac Pierre-Louis, and I'm going to let my partner in crime, Natalia Laska, take over and introduce the next topic.
Thank you so much, Mac. I wanted to say that it is a great pleasure to have our friend and contributor to our podcast, Tye Bourdony, with us today. Tye has a special place, not just in our hearts, but also on our podcast with his special playlist, which is Mediating with and or Without Attorneys with Tye Bourdony. And Tye is going to be with us and talking today about complaining against unfair business issues. We thought that this topic would be practical, but before we go into the guts of that, Tye, tell us a few words about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on. I am the director of mediation at the Mediation Center of Central Florida. I'm also a primary mediation trainer, and I'm the senior mediator here. And I just love meeting.
Thank you so much for that, Tye. And really, it's a great pleasure. You have been training a lot of mediators. You have been having your particular place in mediation and the legal world in Central Florida. And because of your vast expertise, this is how we would want to start our today's topic. This is actually the topic you suggested because of its practicality. Every now and then in our lives, we are both the consumers, where we buy goods, or we are actual entrepreneurs who are having certain clients who are buying our goods, like your trainings or with us lawyers who are coming to us for legal advice. And now there comes a moment where something goes wrong and someone wishes to claim against something that was not working. Can you tell us how you see it? What's the way to do that?
Yeah. So, we have issues sometimes. Something happens and we don't think it's fair. We don't like how we're treated. And sometimes when you call a business, and you want to complain, and sometimes the bigger the business, the harder it is, you're calling and you're speaking with customer service and it seems like you don't get anywhere. And what I found is that there are ways to leverage your complaint. And I've seen this, in practice. I've seen folks do this really successfully. And what that is I like to call it the soft power of the hard complaint. So let's say you have a business that you just don't like how you've been treated and you want to complain and you want to see some results. So of course you call, you complain, but by the same token, find out from a state, federal, and a local perspective, what are the agencies that have any kind of control over that business, their license or the industry, are they regulated, and or who can you complain to in your state, in your area? And so typically there are multiple agencies, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, write complaints against the company with each of them, right? And let's say there are 6 different agencies. So I would do 2 at a time, 2 every 2 weeks. And you write a really good complaint and you send them off. So what happens is, so you're spacing it every 2 weeks and you're sending off 2 complaints or 1 complaint or 3 complaints. I like to kind of keep it even. And what happens is over the course of 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month, complaints keep on coming in against this company. And typically that starts to put leverage on. And I like to say laterally, right? It comes on the side, not directly with them. And when those agencies you're complaining to control their license, typically they have to respond. And it's their attorneys who are going to respond. And so it starts to cost them money. And they will pay more attention to these kinds of complaints, right? And so the people who are just complaining straight on, it kind of stops at a certain place. But when people start complaining really well with a really nice written letter,
and they start complaining to these agencies, these companies will pay attention. And I like to space them out. So 1 or 2 every 2 weeks or so. And it tends to get them to pay attention. And by the way, you can also complain again, right? Google reviews on social media. And so the more that we do that, the more that we're able to be heard, the better results typically people get when they know how to complain.
And Tye, you can hear me. So one of the things about complaining is you want to make sure you're doing it for a legitimate issue, right? And so you want to make sure, because look, there are laws regarding slander and libel in this country and many parts of the world where if you accuse someone or even a business of doing something falsely just because you're mad at them, you didn't get your way, it might not work out too well for you. I think of what's going on between Fox News and Dominion that just got settled recently for $785 million. So it goes to show that if you're going to complain about a company and run their name through the mud, you got to be very careful.
Be ethical.
So what are your thoughts about that? And do you have any examples you can give us? Because I'm thinking about car mechanics, because typically they're the ones who get the most complaints. But what have been your experience?
Well, so one, I couldn't agree with you more. Be ethical. You don't just do this on a whim. This is, you're having a legitimate issue. You're having a legitimate complaint. Where I have seen it work well is with, for instance, a solar company. Someone's having a horrible experience with a solar company. And what they did was, not only did they complain, not only, by the way, seeking legal advice, always a good idea, but they wrote good complaints to the agencies that controlled, that had some kind of measure of control over the solar panel company, for instance, right? And they wrote quite a few complaints. And so every time I have seen individuals do this, the things that they have in common are that they wrote really good complaints. They had a good ethical reason to complain. I love that you brought that up. I think that's so important, right? Complain because you have to complain, because something really is going on, and not just because you feel like complaining. And then because you write the right complaint with the appropriate agencies, and it's more than one, as many as you possibly can, spacing them out, they tend to take notice, right? Especially homeowners associations. I've seen it also work very well against homeowners associations. I've seen it work against, debts that people owed, said that they didn't owe, any one of a number of different places. I assume that it can absolutely also work with, other issues. I think you mentioned
car mechanics.
If someone has car mechanics and issues. Now, this really is more for businesses, bigger businesses, although I'm sure it can work with smaller, businesses. Google reviews are always going to work as well, right? Social media, you can reach a lot of folks with social media. Google reviews are important to businesses. And so if they've done something wrong, others should know about it. So the Google review is more with respect to the reputation, but getting them to listen and to pay attention, that's why writing the different agencies and a little bit of research on Google, and you can find out where you can complain to in your state, your locally, which agencies are going to be the agencies to write a complaint to. So it's really more about leverage. It's about when a company sees that you've written 2, 3, 4, 5 complaints, they're going to respond, especially if that complaint has something to do, again, with, their regulated industry or their license, something of that nature.
And Tye, do you think that writing this sort of complaints is a good way to actually motivate people to go to mediation?
I think I'm a mediator, so I believe in mediation. And some industries, the insurance industry, for instance, they do have mediation programs. And so I would tell you that this complaint process that I'm talking about has a place within the structure of any complaint. And so I would write the complaints before you're going to go somewhere. So if you want to go to arbitration or go to mediation, write the complaints, send them off, and then request mediation. Mediation can be a great place to resolve issues. But my sense is that I've seen it work. First you complain, and then get yourself into the position where going to mediation is going to have some kind of you're going to have a better likelihood of success because they're going to be motivated to come to find some kind of resolution with you. So if there's mediation that you can attend or arbitration or something, great, utilize it. But I think within the context of what I'm saying, you complain first, complain well, complain the right way. The squeaky wheel is going to get attention, and then go to mediation, and hopefully they're going to be willing and motivated to find a good resolution.
Yeah. Go ahead, Natalia.
Yes, because of this is our fourth segment for today. I think that with that, we want to close out and say how much we're grateful that you appeared with us from Florida to Texas.
My pleasure.
Combining Poland on the way with me. And we will definitely have you for more. We'll have you for more mediation pieces. And in the meantime, please, everybody, check out our YouTube channel at LMI Podcast, Lawyers and Mediators International Podcast. And please also see Tye Bourdony's materials, where there is a lot how to prepare yourself for mediation, how to go to mediation with or without an attorney. And that would be all from us for today. Thank you so much for being with us.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
This has been a Now Media Television feature presentation. All rights reserved.
¿Eres licenciado, ingeniero, abogado o enfermero? ¿Biólogo, agrónomo, veterinario o contador? ¿Administrador, mercadólogo o economista? ¿Te gustaría tener una oportunidad para trabajar de manera remota para empresas estadounidenses o incluso emigrar? En The US Marketer estamos buscando oportunidades para mexicanos con estas carreras. Si quieres aprender más, visita nuestra página para más información.
En esta era digital, las tarjetas de presentación de negocio son cosa del pasado. De hecho, la mayoría de las personas que las reciben las pierden en cuestión de minutos. La videotarjeta de negocios de Now Media es un video de su negocio especialmente creado por nuestros expertos con toda su información de contacto, los productos y servicios de su negocio, y puede ser enviado de manera rápida utilizando su teléfono móvil. Cientos de negocios ya están viendo la diferencia. Llámenos hoy al 832-384-9588.
Hey, this is Michael Rager, the host of Biz Talk TV with Michael Rager. Make sure you join us every day, 5 p.m. Central Time, on all Now Media channels and social media platforms.
En esta era digital, las tarjetas de presentación de negocio son cosa del pasado. De hecho, la mayoría de las personas que las reciben las pierden en cuestión de minutos. La videotarjeta de negocios de Now Media es un video de su negocio especialmente creado por nuestros expertos con toda su información de contacto, los productos y servicios de su negocio, y puede ser enviado de manera rápida utilizando su teléfono móvil. Cientos de negocios ya están viendo la diferencia. Llámenos hoy al 832-384-9588.
¿Quieres que tu negocio crezca y todo parece indicar que el camino es Estados Unidos? Te dijeron que abras una LLC para que no pagues impuestos, mas no tienes idea de cómo hacerlo. Soy Edmundo Treviño y quiero compartir contigo más de 20 años como empresario en Estados Unidos para que tú no te equivoques en los mismos errores que yo ya realicé. Sígueme en todas las redes sociales para que juntos conquistemos el mercado americano.
Hey, Lily says AT&T's giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.